The individual in question, my fiancée, attempted to justify her infidelity by claiming that it was merely a test. I chose to end the relationship and leave the premises. To provide context, yesterday I met my fiancée at the venue where we were to be married, 4 months from that day. At the conclusion of the meeting, we proceeded to the venue separately, as she was departing immediately from work. During the meeting, she informed me that her friend was dropping off her rental vehicle and required transportation home. I consented, as the distance was not significant and I was acquainted with her friend. Upon my return home, I attempted to contact her for approximately 3 hours, but received no response until approximately the 30-minute mark. I then texted her friend to inquire if she had arrived safely. I was concerned that my fiancée might return home and inform me that she had encountered unexpected delays. She had spent some time with a friend before departing. This was not a significant issue. I simply requested that she inform me of her plans in advance. My friend contacted me shortly thereafter to inform me that she had been unable to attend the event. She explained that she had not seen my fiancé that evening. I inquired about the reason for her friend's statement and was informed that she was unaware of the circumstances. I acknowledged that her friend's words were not within her control and proceeded to leave the premises. I am currently uncertain about the circumstances surrounding this incident. By this point, I had become so disillusioned that I had never considered this course of action. However, I did examine her phone records, which I am not ashamed to admit. I am not regretful of my decision. I observed that when she left the house, she contacted her friend who had sent me a text message shortly after she left. I also noted an hour-long call with an unknown number on the way to the venue. I inquired about the rental company they had visited and posed a number of other questions. She provided prompt responses, which appeared to be genuine. I began to question my own sanity and considered the possibility that I was mistaken. I decided to take a moment to calm down and think about it further the following morning. I requested that she review the text message from her colleague requesting her assistance in transporting the individual in question. I offered an apology for questioning her the previous night. She declined, stating that she had already informed me that she was on the phone at the time I had approached her. I inquired about the nature of the call. She replied that it was with her colleague, whom she had picked up later. This was the first indication that she was being untruthful. I then requested that she review her phone records, which revealed that she had been in communication with the individual in question prior to our encounter. She then changed her story, stating that she had needed to meet with W.A. Company. A discussion is to be held between a worker and a patient who is the worker, and the reason for not discussing the matter over the telephone are unclear. It is necessary to demonstrate the techniques in person. The patient's name is Michael. I am extremely fatigued at this point. We never lie to each other. I requested to see the text with Michael. She stated that she would not allow me to see it. I inquired as to why not. If there is nothing to hide, I asked, are you having an affair? Are you no longer interested in maintaining the relationship? She paused and proceeded to enumerate the shortcomings she perceived in me. I work excessively, I fail to spend sufficient time with my partner, I fail to listen, I am astonished at this point, and all of this is news to me. I put 2 and 2 together at this point and know that something is amiss. I again requested to see the texts, which took approximately half an hour to obtain. The texts were sexually explicit and discussed me in a negative manner. They also revealed that my partner had initiated a romantic relationship with another individual. 5 months ago, he was her colleague. He is also 15 to 20 years her senior, having been divorced with multiple children. I have been financially supporting her for the last few months as she recovered and was working extra shifts to avoid taking on a part-time job. We own a house which we both live in with 3 dogs and a horse. I am currently experiencing a state of distress. I did not anticipate this turn of events and we were planning to get married in 4 months. I would be grateful for any advice. I have finally been able to sit down with her tonight to discuss this further. She initially attempted to place the blame on me for her actions, attempting to justify her infidelity and dishonesty by claiming that my lack of communication and listening had directly caused her to engage in these behaviors. She asserted that she would not have initiated contact with this individual had I been more attentive to her needs. I then proceeded to explain that I had been spending a significant amount of time in the office, working on various projects, and that I had not been dedicating enough time to her. I attempted to illustrate that I was attempting to support her financially by working extra hours, despite the challenges she was facing, in order to provide for our family. She then stated that she would have preferred to work part-time, which I found to be an illogical assertion, given her previous claims about the difficulties she was facing. She seemed to believe that because this was a short-term arrangement, it would be easier for her to justify her actions. She indicated that she would have been more inclined to accept a part-time position, which seems illogical given the nature of the assignment. It was her assumption that the duration of the project would be relatively brief. She stated that she had lived with the other individual for 1 week and that they had only engaged in sexual intercourse on one occasion. I attempted to discuss the text message in which she had been disparaging me and engaging in sexual discourse with the other individual. However, she deflected the conversation and I was unable to gain any insight from it. I informed her that I was not the cause of the situation and that she had gone too far and should have communicated with me or considered the implications of her actions. I informed her that I could no longer trust her and that this was all her fault. I stated that whether she wanted to try to justify this as my fault was up to her. At the end of this part, the situation became somewhat calmer. I said, "Listen. We must determine the fate of the house we own jointly and the 3 dogs. We have concluded that either I remain and purchase her interest or we sell and relocate to new residences. The dogs will be divided between us, with one of us acquiring 1 and the other 2D. This is where we left off tonight, and we will continue to keep you apprised of our progress. We are curious about your opinions regarding the house financially. I can support it alone, but it is nearly 3,000 square feet and 5 acres of land. This property was purchased solely to accommodate her horse. She will take the horse when she leaves and board it at a barn." Update 2. On the 3rd day, I was able to engage in a 3-hour conversation with her. The discussion encompassed our relationship and the circumstances that led to the present situation. It commenced with her articulating the perceived shortcomings in our relationship, including a lack of communication and excessive time spent on her phone. I do not contest these observations. However, I do acknowledge that my work ethic was driven by a desire to provide financial support for my family. I operate an e-commerce business on the side and am the sole provider for my family. The customer service center is operational 24 hours a day, and I am available to respond to inquiries at all times. I could have been more attentive to setting aside my phone and responding to messages promptly the next day. The lack of communication was a mutual issue, with both parties failing to express their concerns. She indicated that she felt I would have been upset if she had told me, but she never gave me the opportunity to address the issue. I recognize that I am not perfect, and I have made mistakes in the past. Examples of misinterpretation include a recent attempt to assist her with a budget to address financial difficulties. Despite my experience in the financial industry and familiarity with this process, she expressed a misunderstanding of the situation. She indicated that she owed me approximately $1, which she planned to repay the following pay period. I suggested that the amount might be more substantial, prompting a review of the transfers I had made to our joint account. The discrepancy was significant. The objective of this endeavor was not to cause her distress, but rather to ascertain the extent of my financial contributions. She perceived my actions as an attempt to humiliate her, when my intention was merely to provide assistance. The timing of my intervention may have been misconstrued. She informed me that my recent focus on financial matters had been excessive, yet my primary concern was ensuring our financial stability, given the considerable expenses associated with the wedding. My inclination to budget effectively was overwhelming, and I sought to ascertain that we had sufficient funds to meet our obligations. Her continued attempts to justify her actions by attributing them to external factors further complicated the situation. The direct correlation between my flaws and her distress is a source of considerable concern. She frequently asserts that she is astonished that I would discard 7 years of a relationship in such a manner. I am compelled to reiterate that I did not initiate the dissolution of the relationship, rather, she did so through her actions. She has informed me that I disclosed the matter to an excessive number of individuals in a relatively short period of time, and that we could have resolved the matter between us. Additionally, she has stated that she would not have sought counsel from another individual if I had demonstrated a greater capacity for active listening and effective communication. I have recently identified the nature and extent of the affair, which I believe to be accurate. The text indicates that the couple began discussing a potential relationship approximately 2 weeks prior to the incident at the viaduct. It is unclear whether they had previously met outside of work. The man requested a meeting at the park to play basketball and discuss their relationship. The woman agreed to meet him and the two engaged in a physical encounter. It is likely that the relationship did not progress beyond this point, but it is probable that it would have done so in the near future. The woman has stated that she does not consider the man to be her boyfriend. She also left the scene of the incident tonight and her current whereabouts are unknown. It is assumed that she is either with the man or with a girlfriend, but the situation is awkward. It is my hope that this matter will be resolved in the near term. I believe that she desires my return and the attempt to repair the relationship. I believe that the primary issue was a lack of communication, which manifested over an extended period. We established a routine and lived a simple, unexciting life. Meanwhile, this problem was never discussed and grew over time. She reacted by acting out instead of talking to me and also lied to my face and discussed me behind my back. She is adept at subterfuge, and I do not believe that I can fully trust her again. This would undoubtedly be the easiest course of action, but it is not the most optimal. The most beneficial course of action would be to understand the root cause. This has helped me feel better, at least in the short term. It will allow me to address my personality flaw, which manifests as a communication issue, and see things from another perspective. I started hitting the gym today and will maintain a routine. I also plan on picking back up on studying for my CFP designation. I took the week off of work to focus on my mental health. Today, I called the wedding venue and officially cancelled the date. We were able to get some money. I have returned to the matter, but have lost some ground. Unless the date can be resold to another couple, it is unlikely to be of any use. I have also spoken with her parents again to keep them apprised. They live far away and I am sure are worried sick. I continue to let them know everything is fine and calm and they do not need to worry about their daughter. I have conducted further research into interest rates, which I will not be able to find. A comparable house for the mortgage I pay for this can barely find an apartment for less nowadays. I believe my best option is to try and buy out her share and have her find an apartment. She seems agreeable at this time. We will have an appraiser out to assess value and see what half of the equity would be. If that is doable for me, I would like to know if this changes anything. I am writing to inquire as to whether you have considered the situation in question. If you have not, I would be grateful to hear your thoughts on the matter. If you have, I would be grateful to hear what you believe I should be doing differently. I am writing to you now because it has been nearly a month since this situation first arose. I owe you all an update, as I have been very busy, emotionally and eventfully, over the last few days. Consequently, I am not going to lie, the few days after this happened to me were a very difficult time. I was consumed with thoughts of getting back with him. Adultery is an embarrassing admission to make, yet it is a fact of my recent experience. While in a vulnerable state, I attempted to navigate this situation in a way that would facilitate my recovery. However, despite my best efforts, I was unable to achieve the desired outcome. I was informed that I had to choose between her and him, and she ultimately selected him. This realization prompted me to acknowledge that I had allowed my self-esteem to erode. It became evident that I needed to take a step back and focus on my own needs. After 7 years of prioritizing the needs of another individual, it was challenging to shift my attention to my own well-being. However, I have been working to do so since I transferred our joint savings account to my individual checking account. I calculated the amount owed to me and transferred it. I transferred half of the balance back to the joint account for her to take. Since this occurred, I have been engaging in daily exercise, which has not only enhanced my physical appearance but also facilitated my cognitive processes. I have engaged in activities such as shopping for suits and scheduling massages with friends and family. This relationship had a detrimental impact on my social circle, which should have been a significant red flag. I have never engaged in the act of purchasing clothing for myself. My primary concern has always been the provision of for my ailing other and animals. I have commenced weekly sessions with a therapist for the first time in my life. These sessions facilitate the articulation of thoughts and feelings, which inform my decision-making process. I anticipate that this will be a beneficial practice to continue after the situation has been resolved. I am currently engaged in a process of self-improvement with the objective of enhancing my personal growth and well-being. However, I am still residing in the same household with my former partner. She has taken up residence in the guest bedroom, and our communication has become limited to trivial matters such as ensuring that the dogs have been fed. My former partner's actions and attitudes have led me to conclude that she is a person of poor character. Despite my efforts to maintain open communication, she tends to attribute any perceived shortcomings to me, using this as an excuse to avoid engaging in constructive dialogue. Furthermore, she did not communicate her feelings to me and engaged in infidelity. In her delusional mind, she viewed me as a hypocrite and an easy out. I ceased attempting to reason with her because she was unreasonable. I have been maintaining the status quo by listing the house for sale. I contacted an agent and had them conduct a comparative market analysis, which was satisfactory. She then requested that I contacted 2 additional agents and solicited their opinions. One of these agents was recommended by a mutual acquaintance. I made all the necessary telephone calls, arranged all the required appointments, and met with these individuals. This is the typical pattern of the relationship, and despite its inherent unfairness, I have been willing to invest significant time and effort to facilitate my departure from this situation. After meeting with all 3 agents, we ultimately selected the first agent. The photographs were taken on Sunday, and the property was listed for sale on Sunday night. An open house is scheduled for next Saturday. There has been considerable interest in the listing. The horse will be taken to a barn at a later date. I discussed the dogs with the seller and offered to take one or none. The seller indicated that she would take all 3 dogs to maintain their group. The dogs appear to be a happy bunch, and I do not want a dispute over which animal to take would result in the separation of the group, which would be an unfortunate and selfish outcome. It would also facilitate my pursuit of a fresh start. I met someone approximately 1 week ago with whom I have been spending a significant amount of time. I have no false expectations, but I am enjoying our time together. She has experienced a similar situation in the past and has been a source of support during this period. It has been enlightening to interact with her. Opening up to a kind, thoughtful, and independent woman has led me to recognize the extent to which my former partner was narcissistic. My ex-partner was narcissistic, dependent and manipulative. I should have heeded the warnings from family and friends at an earlier stage. I fell into the trap of maintaining a simple routine, which I found unfulfilling. I was in a comfortable situation with a nice house and land, and I had plenty of animals. I was reluctant to rock the boat, so I continued on without questioning the situation. It is only when you take a step back and reflect that you realize this. Some might say that I wasted time, but I am using this experience to learn and grow. I will not ignore red flags in the future. I will not succumb to the simplicity trap. I will continue to maintain relationships with friends and family. I would like to conclude this update with a heartfelt thank you to everyone who commented on my original post on Reddit. I posted on Reddit because I was unsure of the best way to proceed. Those of you who took the time to try and help a complete stranger on Reddit are to be commended. I read every single comment and they all provided valuable insights that helped me navigate this situation. I am now looking forward to the next chapter in my life, wherever it may take me. Thank you all for your support. It has been a considerable period of time since I have provided an update on this matter. It is remarkable to consider that this situation occurred over 4 months ago. Over time, the situation has improved considerably, and it is my hope that anyone encountering this situation will find it helpful to know that time is a healer. I resided with my former partner in the shared domicile until it was undoubtedly painful to be in the same space as her and the dogs, knowing that my life as I had known it had come to an end. We were roommates who did not like each other, and I attempted to avoid her as much as possible, but it was impossible. We stayed in different bedrooms, but the dogs were allowed to roam to and from at night. Doors were left open after. During the initial period following the dissolution of the relationship, the former partner ceased to sleep in the same bed as the other individual. This pattern of behavior persisted for the remainder of the time spent at the former residence. However, the constant texting and phone calls did not occur. It is possible that the two individuals decided not to pursue a romantic relationship but to remain friends. However, this is not certain, and it is not clear whether the former partner was asked about this decision. The former partner moved out of the residence in the departure of May, and 2 of the 3 dogs was particularly distressing. The sense of loss I experienced was comparable to that of losing a loved one during my final month in the area. I met up with the ex and 2 dogs at a dog park a few times, and they seemed happy to see me. However, it was evident that they were adjusting well without me. My interactions with the former partner were limited to brief discussions about the dog's adjustment. She relocated to a dilapidated residence in a distressed neighborhood. The property included a yard for the dogs, but it lacked fencing. I last heard that she was working on completing the fence during this period. I consistently engaged in physical exercise at a gym. On the day in question, I also devoted considerable time and effort to my side hustle. I was aware that life would become increasingly expensive, and I wanted to be prepared for this period, which commenced on March 15 and concluded on June 15, the date of my relocation. During this period, I had generated over 6 figures in sales revenue from my side hustle. Additionally, I made no significant purchases, which allowed me to save a considerable sum of money. Furthermore, I received proceeds from the sale of my previous property. The sale of my previous residence permitted me to purchase a more spacious and desirable property in a desirable location. The proceeds from the sale of my previous residence were sufficient to comfortably afford the new residence. However, the process of purchasing the new residence was arduous. Fortunately, the sellers of my previous residence permitted me to rent the property for a month until June 15. I submitted offers on a total of 5 houses and finally received an acceptance on the last offer towards the end of May. It is a significant benefit to be out of the old place. The memories associated with that house were a constant source of distress, particularly after my ex left with the other 2 dogs. The house was particularly empty after the move, which was challenging but was made easier by the assistance of friends and family. I have now been in my new residence for slightly over a month, and it is becoming increasingly comfortable daily. I am still in contact with the same woman, who is now my official girlfriend, and I live closer to her. It is fortunate that I have this woman in my life. She treats me well and I am grateful to have her. She helped me through this situation and has been very understanding of my need for space and emotional fluctuations. I have never been with someone who communicates so well. It has made me a better communicator. My emotional intelligence has also grown significantly. Overall, life is good. While this was one of the hardest things I have had to go through, I feel blessed that it happened. I was going to marry a completely selfish person. My previous employer was a demanding and ungrateful individual. I was content with my daily routine and reluctant to disrupt the lives of my animals or lose my home. Consequently, I was willing to endure a state of unhappiness. I will continue to work on myself and learn more about my own wants and needs. I will also continue to provide my dog with the best life possible. I frequently think about my former partner, and I experience frequent flashbacks of both positive and negative memories. My new therapist has been extremely helpful in helping me realize that I probably will not. I have yet to receive an apology from her that I consider adequate. She is evidently too proud to admit what she did was wrong. Communication with my ex has been very limited. I do not intend to see her or the other 2 dogs again. I have accepted that this is the best course of action for everyone involved. If I have omitted any pertinent information or if you have questions about this situation, please feel free to post a comment and I will be happy to answer them. This situation is now over and I will not be making any further posts on the subject. Thank you for following the saga and for your support throughout this process.